All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Lower Third podcast. We hope to accomplish with this podcast conversations about moving forward in the new normal and providing a little bit of hope and observation. The concept of the lower third is people who are relentless and unstoppable. And you look at them and you just wonder who lit that fire? How are they pulling this off? What are they really made of? And that's what we want to answer with this podcast. So I hope you enjoy the journey with me. I'm really excited to announce my guest today, Katie Nelson. Katie, welcome to the Lower Third podcast. Thank you so much for being here. How are you?
Thanks for the invite. I'm doing very well. Thank you.
Excellent. Well, I am super excited to have you on the show because you are a huge influence in my life. And, from the moment that I met you, like we got along famously, recommended by another Molly. So you can't go wrong with that, right? Mollies are always bringing good people together. But, I really love what you do with, really focusing on sales and cash flow for your business and just your mentality, which I don't think is celebrated enough, especially in the artistic community, because we always feel that we need to like give everything away for free, and that just this real problem with devaluing ourselves in the creative community. So I really appreciate your influence in my life. And so, let's introduce yourself, tell everybody, who you are, your company, the good stuff.
The good stuff. I don't know that
Yeah.
any of that's the good stuff, but we can get to that later. My name is Katie Nelson. I'm known as the Sales Catalyst. I am the CEO and founder of a company called Sales Uprising, and 100% I believe in cash flow for your business and generating revenue on a daily basis if we can make it happen,
Absolutely.
especially for creatives. But I'm sure we'll get that.
Especially.
I'm sure we'll get to that later.
Exactly. So tell me your origin story. Like what's your business origin story? Where'd you start? What's your background?
Uh, so the most important part, I think, if we don't go through my entire life, is that I grew up in Arizona, and in 2004 moved to Virginia. And when I did that, I ended up in a crazy industry called staffing. Up until that point, I've been a salesperson my whole life. Girl Scout candy or campfire candy. You'll have to edit out the Girl Scout part. My mother would kill me. But selling everything all the time. And I found staffing, and I took to it like a duck to water. If nobody has ever been in the staffing industry, there's this amazing thing that happens where you have to deeply listen to your client to understand the type of talent that they need. If you happen to work in the government contracting space, you have to understand the type of contract that they're going to. So there's the potential for creating massive solutions just by one awesome placement. And so I loved this industry, and it ended up actually being where I owned my first company for the first time. And that led into owning two separate staffing firms. And it was great. And it was a great run, kind of like running a restaurant. It's really hard on a body. It's a lot, especially if you've got over 100 contractors and you work in a
Wow.
small business. Yes. And so I found myself after a business breakup with one of my partners, reevaluating what I really wanted to do. And it turned out that what I want to do is continue to create win-win solutions. I just want to do it for small business owners by way of cash in their pocket. And so now I own my own business coaching firm, Sales Uprising.
So let me ask you, when you had the bad breakup, with the business partner, when that happened, did you immediately want to, jump back in? Did you have some self-reflection? Like, I feel like no matter what the breakup is, right? There's always, hopefully there's some self-reflection, like, what was my part in this? Like, how was I, and sometimes it, you get gun shy, right? You don't want to do it again, right? Like, I feel like I'm fortunate because I don't have any like business muscle memory. Like, I could do an event and it could just tank, and I'm like, oh, that sucks. So then the next morning I get up and I'm like looking at warehouses to do another event. Like, there's just no, I'm like, oh, well, that didn't work. I'm just going to do something else. I'll do it differently next time. Personally, not so much. I'm still hanging on to like heartbreak from like the seventh grade, but that's an issue for my therapist, quite frankly. But, it's hard, right? Sometimes you take those hits and it definitely makes you wonder, like, am I the problem? Am I really good? Did you have any of those moments, or were you just kind of like, no, I'm going to jump back up and I'm gonna do it the way that I want to?
What a great question. So how that presented was one, it was a really bad breakup. I had to decide if I wanted to go to litigation. So
Mm,
anybody who's ever had to decide to want to go to court, the beautiful thing about that is that they will let you decide over and over and over again until maybe a year and a half later when you actually go to court.
mm,
So it was a long drawn out process and it was really, really painful, but uh, almost from the moment of the actual breakup and like leaving my office that I had created for the last time, I had the ability to and the want to make phone calls and talk to some people and find out what was going on. I had to think about was staffing the business that I wanted to go back into, or was there something else? And so I made a call to a woman that I had met uh, months prior, just to talk it out. I didn't think what I really wanted to do was teach people that sales could be approachable and how to do it and how to do it beautifully and how to get your system so down pat that you would have revenue that you could depend on, right? Because as an entrepreneur, especially in the beginning, there's no depending on your revenue. Like we don't even know our winning formula yet, right?
right.
So this is what I wanted to do, but I didn't think people wanted that. What I thought people wanted was just to hire me to sell for them, which I
Mm,
had zero desire to do. And so I had to take a chance that this woman who knew more about the outside world other than the one that I'd been living in, uh, knew that people really do want to learn how to sell better, sell more, how to do it and actually make money, and do it while being themselves and not what they perceive of sales to be. So I, from the beginning, I immediately wanted to do something because I'm not a big not sit still kind of person, although that's kind of true too, but not a sit in your own. I just looked at it as an opportunity. Like, okay, one, it's massively sad that this thing ended. Like, if you had cut me open, I would have bled the company colors, right? I created
right.
this thing. I generated a $6 million run rate in a little under two and a
Mm,
half years. And if you can't imagine the amount of output that that takes, like, it takes a lot, but I was
yeah.
happy to do it every day. And so it was massively sad that that had ended and I missed it. But there was also this amazing opportunity for me to truly step into everything that I could do all under my own steam without a partner. And could I do it? Could I do it? Could I make money at it? Do people want it? Would it be as great as I think it could be? That kind of thing.
So once you got past all of that and you decided this is what I want to do, did you have any financial hurdles? Like, did you have money? Because I would imagine that in my position, if I had just gone through a bad breakup, that I would have no money. And I
That's
speak from
adorable of you.
experience because I've
Yeah.
had no money after, making not making mistakes, but going through my entrepreneurial journey, right? But shit costs money, yo. It costs money. It costs money to form an LLC. It costs money to even get a PO box. It costs money to make business card. Everything costs money, right? And so building a business, you have to have some cash flow to start with, right? So I'm curious, like, how did you, were you able to fund that from money you made? Did you raise money? Like, what did you do?
What a great question. So yeah, I was broke. I had made great money, but I had made some loans to the company that were now going to be wrapped up in
Of
litigation.
course.
So first we had to go to the hubs and say, "Hey, I know that for the past 7 years I've been an C corp and I've gotten a K1 and we've done the business owner thing, and now I think I want to do it all on my own. What do you think?" I was so nervous about that conversation because not only am I saying, so, hey, I think I want to go to court, which is going to cost money, but now I want to start another business,
In the
which is
in the
going to cost
mix.
money. Yeah, sure.
Right.
Why not? Why not? Why not?
Hey.
And luckily for me, he looked at me and he's like, finally, like, do you have any idea how much money you've made for people? Yes. And I was like, oh, I was not expecting that. Well, okay then. And so we had some cash. We took out, I think, a $5,000 loan from the house. So we bootstrapped it 100% on our own. The beauty of being a salesperson is once you actually, for me, the biggest investment wasn't in business cards, it wasn't in branding, it wasn't in my LLC or anything like that. It was in understanding what I was going to deliver to my end client, because
Mm.
as I could figure that out, with or without a business card, I can sell. I don't need a business card to sell. Nobody does. But so I could start generating cash as soon as possible. Yes, I am here
You
to tell
already
you,
know I'm about to say something about the
despite
business card.
despite what marketing people will tell you, humans, whoever is listening to this podcast, I'm going to tell you, if you are starting a business, 100%, the first thing outside of getting your legal structure together for tax purposes, you do not need branding colors. You don't need to know who you are in business. All you need to have is a solution for people and to understand how you're going to get it to them and then sell it to them. And as soon as you
Yeah,
start selling it to them, then you start generating cash. Then you start actually getting comfortable with who you are in this business, and all of your branding, your colors, your ideas, your taglines can come from there.
I
Yes.
agree. I agree.
Thank you.
I mean, on some level, I still think business
Uh-huh.
cards are important, and I think they shouldn't be whack. But like,
Well, okay. So here you go. So you got a phone, right? For years I did this. Somebody asks you for a business card. Is that why you need them? Because somebody's saying, "Hey, Molly."
I think for me, it's not so much about like the transfer of information. It's about the legitimacy of it. And so if I'm charging like a higher dollar amount and I'm at like a networking event and somebody who I'm working with is like, oh, you should talk to Molly, like being able to, like, it's certain specific situations. Like, I don't think you absolutely need one to be a new business.
Okay.
Because there's definitely iterations. I mean, even with Heartcast Media, I was like, we're going to do all this live streaming. We're going to live stream the shit out of all these business events. We did one live stream in the first year of business. Like, I had spent 3 years doing nothing but live streams. I was the queen of the stream, which is questionable
I
marketing,
was
but
going to
whatever.
say, I don't know
Um,
if that's a good
me
line.
and well, yeah, I'm gonna leave that joke all the way alone.
Yeah.
And
Perfect.
so but we did so much live streaming that was really my niche. And like the podcasting and everything that came before that was like, oh, that's super easy. But people didn't want live stream, they wanted something else, right? And even now I'm like having not new iterations of the business, but like new ways to solve problems, right? So instead of saying we do all the heavy lifting so you can focus on the content, it's like, no, if you want to have a podcast and not do any work, we do that. Like, just really laying out what the offer is, what people really want, and
It
that
becomes clearer and
changes.
clearer, right? Like
Exactly.
the thing is that it doesn't change. It only changes in our mind. It's literally the seeing it from our perspective to being
Right.
able to have enough client conversations to see it from our client's
From their
perspective.
perspective. Oh my
And
God,
that's
so
what's
good.
really going to, right? That's really what's going to, it's never about us.
Right.
Right. And I say that all the time in sales. It's not really about you. Like the truest form of sales, which is providing solutions for people, has very little to do with you as a person providing a solution. After all, your solution may not be for them.
A hundred
So it's
percent.
literally having a conversation and getting to know someone and being curious
Mm-hmm.
and interested authentically and truly that will really make your sales blow through the roof, right?
I agree. I agree for sure. So, okay, so you borrowed some money against the house. You started up the business, and was that enough funding, or did you have to raise more money?
I totally had to raise more money. So 6 months in, we were it was great. I was having meetings, I was consulting, I was getting some cash, I was doing some business. And then I looked at the numbers and I'm like, oh my gosh, Katie, you're never going to be able to make enough money at this rate. You're going to literally like be working around the clock to generate even what you used to make, girl. Like, how did you fall into this trap? And it's partly because, and shame on me, maybe I should have done it beforehand, but you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
And I'm grateful that I realized that sooner rather than later. So 6 months in, I did the friends and family call, right? Hi, Aunt Sue. Hey, Uncle Joe. I'm cool, right? You think I've got I can do things, can't I? Good. Do you want to pay for those things? But how I approached it was 100% from legal perspective and was like, look, there'll be an agreement. It has a percentage on it. It has late fees. It's a legal document. You have the ability to come at me if I don't pay you back. Right. Like, so I treated it like a business transaction. Just it happened to be with some people who knew me and believed in me. And I had 6 months worth of traction to show them and show them why I needed this investment so that I could like get over this hump. With that money, I was able to fund products that helped boost my business. And we went on from there. So yeah, I absolutely, and they've been paid back and it's all been great.
So that was going to be my next question. Was that was structured as loans and not like ownership or shareholders or anything like that, just strictly loans?
Absolutely. One of the things I've learned, I've had 2 separate business partnerships. So one of the things that I've learned about that is that you want to enter into them very, very methodically. And I think that anytime you enter into something like that, especially with family, it becomes less methodical.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know that I would ever go into business with my family as it stands right now. Is there the potential for someone else to have ownership at a different point in time? There's always potential. But
Right.
as of right now, it's 100% me, and I'm 100% happy that way.
That's awesome. So, okay, so things are cranking along. What year is this?
2020. Oh, you're not this year.
Yeah.
The business was started. Sorry,
Thanks,
I'm like, well,
Katie.
I didn't know where you were. I don't know.
Who am I? What day is
Right.
it? Oh.
So the business was started in 2016. The loans were taken out in 2017 and paid back in 2018, which was a little early.
Killing the game. Killing the
Yes,
game.
getting it done.
Okay, so all right, so business is cranking along. Everything is happening. You're building clients. You're meeting awesome people like me at networking events, and then boom, the long arm of the pandemic hammer comes crashing down upon us. What does that mean? Because I know you do a lot of like masterminds, which are in person. I know you do a lot of like in real time teaching. I know you're a big in-person networker. So like, what did that mean for your business? How did that impact things?
Well, what it meant immediately was no in-person networking, no in-person events, which is another way that I bring, right? Live speaking up until the pandemic was a fantastic way to
Totally.
broaden your audience. And I had a lot of time on my hands because I spent a lot of time doing those things.
Yeah.
So for me, and you can call my clients, within the first week, I literally had called every client, let them know that we were going to go virtual, which is fine in how it's done. It's always been set up to be able to do that. I just like the humanness. And my recommendation to them was to do exactly what I was going to do, which was every year I host a business planning retreat because every business needs to do planning. And I said, I need you to do me a favor. I need you to go into the closet and grab your business plan and dust it off and pull it back out and see what did you have? What were your big rocks for later this year that maybe now we can reprioritize? So even before the word pivot ever came out, it never occurred to me to have to recreate the wheel for my business. I had priorities on my list like go virtual, because if I go virtual, then I can go national, right? That wasn't slated until October or November of this year. But now that plan is in effect in my marketing for now, right? Online courses wasn't slated until 2021. But hey, I'm working on online courses.
Yes,
even though
you
my
are.
people would, yes, I am.
You're late.
Shush. Zip it.
Amen.
So it wasn't for me so much a pivot. It was, what are we doing in our business right now that still works right now that we can immediately pick up the baton for and run with it.
And what was your client's response to that? Were they, did you lose some clients? Did you keep some clients? Like what did that look like?
I've kept every client that
Amazing.
I was to have kept. Yes, it is amazing. All of them have chosen to continue with their businesses. And I've even gotten new clients from the pandemic. So it's moving forward.
Imagine that. Well, one thing that I really love about you, Katie, is, we were talking about this, and you and I had very similar opinions, right? And we're talking about, just, a lot of people were really upset, and we get that, right? It's really tough. Like a lot of small businesses are going under, and it definitely sucks. Yeah. So I had a business for 17 years that I ran, and I shut it down, and it sucked, and it was painful. Like it, I was, happy with my decision, no regrets, as they say. And I was ready to shut it down. I knew it was the right move, but it still hurt a little bit. It's a long time to build something and then shut it down. So like, I never want to like belittle anybody's experience, right? With like closing a business, like it sucks. You have to let people go and all that. But the one thing that I really love about you that we shared is the fact that like no one said it was gonna be easy, right? And like being an entrepreneur is a risk, like pandemic or not, it's a risk. You can come up with a product and somebody else can come up with a better version of that 6 months later, especially if it's tech related. I mean, there is absolutely nothing guaranteed, right? MySpace, Friendster, like these are, cute. Look at all the
I'm sorry,
companies.
what?
Right, exactly. And like, look at all the companies right now that are like filing bankruptcy, like huge companies that you would think were so steadied and so, shored up and their foundations were really solid. And nope, they are going out of business. And so I think that like the mindset and the perspective on that kind of helps change things, because then neither one of us got focused on like we didn't think this was going to happen, and just more so like it happened, now what, right?
Yeah. So what we doing? So what we
Right.
doing, boo? And that was
What
the
are we
thing, right?
doing?
Yes. But and it's just so true. Like I was reading some article and I wish I could find it, but ultimately it talks about the people who are the most prepared for this are small businesses. Really and truly, our businesses are from crisis to crisis. And that could
100%, yeah.
be, it could be because of our own doing, right? Like, so we're marketing to the wrong audience, so it's not hitting, or it could be you work in government contracting and the faucets are turned off. There's sequestration and LPTA, and, that happened to one of my businesses. So,
Right.
you just didn't have enough ramp to get it going enough to beef up your coffers to be able to sustain yourself during any given particular thing that happens. So business owners, if you pay attention, like our core is really strong. We do sit-ups every day. Every time we get out of bed, it's to go it feels like to go see what the next thing what challenge we're going to
Right.
overcome is. So for me, the pandemic was no different. And for my clients, I mean, business is still happening. I have a lot of conversations every day. And so, yeah, so Neiman Marcus is closing, and uh, all these really big guys, you're like, oh, right? Well, now don't compare your race to somebody else's. A small business may have money in the bank. Maybe they, not all entrepreneurs, even though being an entrepreneur is a risk, we're not all about all the gambles. I'd say I'm a pretty risk adverse business owner. I like to
Mm.
make sure I've got some cash in the bank in case I need to maneuver for my business.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And if I don't, then I need to have the mindset that the rest of me needs to maneuver in my, in my offering or in what I'm going to do daily.
For
Right.
sure. And I think
So
keeping expenses low too, because like, Macy's and Neiman's, they also probably have like $10 million in leases due every
I was
month
going to
from
say,
all the
can
real
you
estate.
imagine how much rent? Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, one time, so Michael Babin, he's the owner of NRG Neighborhood Restaurant Group. He has like 22 different things, like
Yeah,
butchers, meat packing facilities,
rock
restaurants,
on.
coffee shops. And so I had him on my podcast once, and I was like, hey, you don't have to answer this if you don't want, but I was like, what is your monthly lease nut? You know what I mean? And he sat and he started doing the math, and I could see like the panic in his face, because it's like, it's like $250,000 a month just in the, and I'm misquoting because I don't remember what he said, but it was a lot of money. And so when you think about not having business for 4 months or having to close your doors for 2 months, but the rent is still due, that's why these big companies are falling, because the rent is too damn high and they just can't maintain it without high levels of sales. So it's always interesting, right? Like if you can match, that's a great thing about a small business, is you don't need 10,000 clients a month, right? You could maybe have 25 or 5 or 10, right? Depending on what your business is. And I think that helps kind of keep the finish line a little bit more in focus, right? Or maybe not the finish line, but the baton pass, right? Like
Yeah.
whatever's next, right? Because it never ends until we die or we just like move to Costa Rica. But the point is that like,
I didn't
yeah,
know it was ending when you moved to Costa
no,
Rica.
it's
Wait a
not.
minute.
It's not.
I was
I'm
going to
still
say,
gonna keep
hey,
going.
hey, hey.
No. I'll be like live
That's
from
not the
Costa
deal.
Rica. This is the lower third, Pura Vida. So yeah, yeah, I think that keeping everything super scrappy, right, like really helps, and keeping your overhead down. So
Staying lean, man.
stay lean, right? Like, yeah. So, and I was going to ask you too, is sitting up out of bed considered a push up? Because if that's the case, then I do
Oh,
7 sit-ups a week, and I feel pretty good about that right now.
so yeah, so it would be sit-ups, right? Like, don't
Yeah.
you have to like actually like sit up
Sit
every
up,
morning?
core
Yeah.
strength, core
Look
strength.
at, go
Good.
on with yourself, bad girl.
I mean, hey, man, I'm killing it. So, what for you has changed? In did you cut down expenses? Like, what did you change about your business into the pandemic other than moving to virtual?
Well, sure. Well, even with the move to virtual, now I don't have to pay for setup for events, right? So I don't have to pay for that. I don't have to pay for space for events. So there's a whole, I don't have to pay for memberships for in-person networking events, or even
Right.
the, here's your $35 so you can come have coffee with me or whatever.
Right.
Uh, all of those dollars and cents add up.
Mm-hmm.
So from an expense perspective, of course, all of those dollars immediately went into boosts in marketing, different campaigns, online course creation, right? So, as long as the clients keep coming in, we're still good from an expense perspective. Um, the What was the question? Sorry, I'm like,
It's
sorry, I
okay.
got stuck doing math in my own head.
No, it's okay. So, we were talking about what did you change, like what stayed the same so you're not having to pay all those expenses and everything else.
So the other thing that I think that really came to the forefront for me, which of course, as a business owner, I was very happy to put all the way on the back burner, was because of the business that I run and how I run my business, my online social media presence, and even like video presence, a YouTube channel, things that, let me tell you how towards the lower third of the list they were on,
Mm-hmm.
is what we would say. Those had the opportunity to say, okay, Katie, so look, you can invest in the time. You're not taking time away from your clients to do these things. One of the reasons why I started my own business was to be able to have an integration with my work and my life.
Mm-hmm.
So I've never been the person to work 20 hours a week, except for in the beginning launch stages, because I still want to enjoy my life and have something to give my clients, right? So I wasn't going to bust my hump to create a YouTube channel, let me tell you, uh, at all. But now I've had the opportunity to be able to set that in motion, make it work, see the analytics that come out of it, and adjust how important that can be for me in my business. It's been a lot of fun.
That's awesome. I think it's important I mean, it's a crazy time right now, and some days are better than others. Some weeks are better than others, right? Like sometimes it's just hard to, do anything at all. And sometimes I want to work like 8 hours until 2 in the morning, and I just rock with it, right? I just my circadian rhythm it's like a rave from the 90s right now. It's out of
Or right
control.
now, or you could say that right now it is 100% and wholly you. So think about how much time we spend trying to match our schedule with a corporate schedule.
Right.
And was that ever the right circadian rhythm? Is that everyone's circadian? So I would
No.
question you. I bet like you're rocking and rolling because now you can just do you all day, every day, and roll with it, ride the tide when it comes in, right?
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, definitely I've spent a lot of times like going to meetings and moving around and in my car and preparing for things, and like not as much time doing like deep focused work. So I've kind of appreciated that. And the ability to, yeah, like take a couple hours off in the middle of the day and go swim in the ocean or go for a bike ride or do something that's, might not have worked previously because I had to be on other people's schedules. And so I think that's really important. So in this pandemic round, did you have any cash flow issues? Did you have to raise money again? Were you good to go? Like, what did that look like for you?
100%. I almost, so what PPP and the the emergency disaster loans came out relatively quickly. So in this, let me say, in this time of like crazy, we don't know what's going on with our government, let's take a moment to say thank you that they could even create a program like that, that the Small Business Administration could work that out. And that was just phenomenal,
Super fast. Yeah.
regardless of the concerns. I believe that there are concerns,
Right.
but that was ridiculous to be able to get a government up to speed on a program and create it so quickly.
Right.
But before all of that and not having any idea what it was going to look like, I immediately dusted off my loan agreements and created a list for investment, for another 2-year investment. And the reason for that had everything to do with this about 4-month discrepancy. So in cash flow, my
Mm-hmm.
business plan is 100% created on the cash that's generated and coming in and saved so that you can reinvest in the firm, right? Well, my big ticket items from a marketing perspective, like online courses or virtual mastermind marketing to be able to build that list, things like that, weren't supposed to hit until the end of 2020 because I would have the cash at that point.
Right. Right.
But as of March, whatever it was, uh, I couldn't do any of the multiple events that I planned to fill up those pipelines, all of that stuff. So I already saw this 4-month discrepancy, uh, got out my business plan, got out my call list, got out my loan agreements, and made calls. So 100%, I immediately went to the phones and said, all right, so I don't know what the stock market's going to do, but you know me and you know what I'm going to do. Want to
That's why I
invest?
love you. That's why I love you. And you did that in March or in April?
I did it in April. I dusted it all off and got it all pretty and knew who I was going to call in April.
And it worked. You had some retention with that. People I mean, I can't imagine why they wouldn't reinvest in you.
I didn't even go back to the same people.
Oh, look at
So
you.
I went to a whole new batch of people who actually, well, and the reason for that is because they are intimately involved in my business, right? So, and what I mean by that is they see me, they know me,
Mm-hmm.
we're business connections, or they have some understanding of what it is I do, what I produce, how I produce it, how well I'm doing in the field, right?
Right.
So, I mean, my family, who knows if they know what business coaching is?
Right.
They
So
only know me.
So do you think that making that decision to do that in April, do you think that was that like a hard decision to make, or is it just like natural for you to, because you're essentially holding yourself accountable, right? You made the decision a month into the pandemic, not knowing, not like we know more 4 months into the pandemic. It's even more confusing now. But even a month in, when everybody was like losing their shit, they were like, I don't know what to do. I got to pivot. And it's like, yo, everybody calm down, right? While everybody's freaking out, like completely changing their whole business, you're doubling down and like really holding yourself accountable because now you're borrowing more money. So like just rolling over is not an option. Like you can't quit. And I mean, I'm sure you still could, and you could pay them back at some point. But I love that you put yourself in a position to have to be accountable to yourself and to your actions. Was that just a natural move for you? Was that like that didn't even require any thought, or did you have a moment where you were like, maybe the other alternative? I don't even know what that would be.
Right. What's the other? See why you do
And
it.
there
See
it
why you hold
is,
your right.
right?
And thank you. You've answered that beautifully for me.
Right.
So I think part of it comes from the fact, like when I talk about inner fortitude and resiliency and like core inner strength, when you're a salesperson, who do you think you're accountable to? So you're working in a corporation, sure, but if you get paid on commission, that if you have
Yeah.
a month where you're like, oh, I'm going to go to the beach, you either make sure that for the 6 months before you go to that beach, that you work your tail off so that you can put that cash aside for that one
Right.
month. Not just that 1 month you're not going to get paid, but then this slow influx back in, because now activity breeds activity. No activity breeds no activity.
It's a
So, right? It's a beautiful mathematical equation. Having been in sales for so long, it is an ingrained practice. You are accountable to your own paycheck. Every salesperson on earth has to pay for their right to be in that spot, right? It's like a stylist, a hairstylist. They rent their space,
mm-hmm.
right? So even if you work in a salon, you rent your chair, you have to generate it all. It's all you all the time. So I think that that's just a habit for me, right?
Yeah.
I'm accountable to my family. I'm accountable to the success story that I have in my own head for Sales Uprising,
Yes.
right? Could I do this a different way? Maybe. Right now, I haven't been so unsuccessful at it that I would ever think to stop.
I love that. So, do you have any advice for people who are, thinking about starting a business or own a business or are just kind of in? I feel like a lot of people are like in the lurch right now. They're just like they're in the bog of eternal sadness with our tax, and they're trying to
Oh.
figure. Okay, that might be a little grim. They are in a point where they don't really know what to do, right? The unprecedented times are leaving people feeling very uncertain about things. And so, what would be your advice for business owners that are kind of in the middle right now? What would be your best advice to them?
Oh, okay. So, one, I am massively blessed to, for the most part, 100% see sparkles, rainbows, and rosy colored things everywhere I look. So, if you don't have that tendency, this particular piece of advice is probably not going to hit you where I would love it to hit you. I have practiced my positivity muscles my whole life, and I love them, and they work really well to get you through times like this. If you are a business owner that's going through a difficult time, instead, I want you to turn your kaleidoscope to see a different picture. All of the pieces are still the same, right? A kaleidoscope has only so many pieces in it, but when you turn it, even just a few percentages, the picture is different inside. So turn it until you see a nice picture and then go towards that picture. Uh, Instead of looking at all of the challenges, I would have you look at the potential of opportunities, right? When everybody is so in regular sales life, right? Uh, Depending on your what you sell, your industry, people can say, "Oh, it gets so slow in the summer." You know what that means for you as an individual? Fantastic. All of your competition is going to go to the beach. They assume it's going to be slow in the summer. So what does that leave? It leaves potential for you all over the place to go scoop up. Right now, I look at every challenge that way. So
Hmm.
right now within the pandemic, what are we missing? What do we need? What do you have? Don't forget, each one of us is a beautiful snowflake, right? I know that's going to sound so funny, but each one of us has an individual perspective, individual experiences that bring us to wherever we are. And if you are of a mind to own your own business, what of you and that can you bring forward? And what kind of solution can you provide? What audience? And you're good to go.
I love that. I really like the perspective because I always say perspective is everything, and it's so true. It just really depends, right? And some days are better than others, right? So like it doesn't have to be every day. Like sometimes you just want to throw the fucking kaleidoscope across the room, and that's okay as long as you go pick it up the next day and you
Yep.
recalibrate, right? Like it's not always gonna be butterflies and rainbows in your immediate, but they're there. They're just on the other side of that
Yeah, you
next
just
summit,
got to go get them.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Right. And so, and that's the thing. The second piece I would say is give yourself grace.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, there are very few people I know. We know so many people. And when you own a business, the majority of them are all very type A.
Mm-hmm.
Not me, though. I'm very chill. Uh, we're all very go. I think our grandparents would say, "You're such go-getters, kids. You're such go-getters." Uh, when you are having a down day, understand you're not being lazy. Quit judging yourself about something like that. It's This time is so heavy and so under a microscope. And I have never in my life invested in more grace for myself or uh, just room to breathe. One of the things you said that I loved was, yeah, I hadn't been able to do really deep focused work for so long. And that's also true for like how you run you.
Mm-hmm.
When was the last time before the pandemic, even if we are working in the health and wellness field, that we really have given ourselves self-care? So I even look at COVID as an opportunity to figure out and get back in touch with what makes me me. Why can I do the things that I do? How can I do it better? How can I have more of that to give to my people?
100%. Yeah. I mean, even just little things like, I haven't gotten my nails done in a few months and they're super healthy again, right? Look at
One
you.
broke, but
Oh
other than
yeah.
that, yeah.
Yeah, mine all broke, but whatever. But they broke because I was messing with them, not because they were like all flimsy and whack from like getting gel nails on them. And just, being able to ride my bike without worrying about getting hit by a car, an angry Uber driver, like all of these things really matter. And yeah, being able to make that decision every day, like, what do I want
Yes.
to do today? Like, how do I want to show up in the world today? And giving yourself some grace to like get it wrong some days, or just get it wherever you're at, and just keep it moving, right? It doesn't
Yep.
define who you are. Well, Katie, I really appreciate you and I love you. I'm so grateful for your position in my life. And so thank you for coming on today. I would, please let people know how can we support you, or how can you support people? What would you like to tell? Because I will say, I will co-sign. Katie is an amazing business and sales coach. I have seen her work with lots of people. We are just friends and colleagues, but she's always telling me what to do too. And she's one of the only people that can actually get away with that, working on that too. But whatever. Um, but I would encourage, if anybody is really looking to like up their sales game, to work with you. So how, what is the best way for people to reach out to you? How can they contact you? What kind of clients are you looking for?
Oh, rock on. Thanks for asking.
Yeah.
Uh, right now, service-based businesses, right? So you don't sell a product, you sell a service. You have been in your business for probably a year and your revenues aren't there. And now that the pandemic has hit, you really are at a loss for what to do. I can 100% help you.
Awesome.
And I would be happy to do so. My website, www.salesuprising.com. You can, if you want a little bit of humor and a nice focal point for your week, you can look me up on YouTube at Sales Uprising. You can search Sales Uprising, and there will be my face
Those are
laughing.
awesome videos. Yep.
Thank you. My Feed the Fire series. I'm also on Facebook at Sales Uprising, LinkedIn, Sales Uprising, and Katie Nelson. I'm basically anywhere you want me to be except for Twitter, or what's that other thing? TikTok. I'm not on TikTok. Don't try and find me on TikTok. I'm not investing in
Thank
TikTok.
God. Okay. Jesus Christ, people. All right. Well, we'll make sure to do like a update in the, notes for everybody, so they have all the links where they can find you. Thank you again for being on the podcast today. Really excited to be able to share this with people. You are super resilient, and I love everything about you. And I think that if more people could adjust their kaleidoscope, right, and see what's really in front of them, maybe they'd feel a little bit better and a little bit brighter. So I think that's awesome advice. So thank you very much. And we will see you again real soon.
Thank you, Molly.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to the Lower Third podcast. Really appreciate you investing your time and me and to listen to these stories. If you have a story to tell and you'd like to be on the podcast, please hit me up. And please consider subscribing to us on YouTube. That's where the magic is. And if you really found this content valuable, please consider sharing it on LinkedIn, Facebook, anywhere you want to share it. But we would love to get this message out. We're trying to, create some hope and some perspective in a kind of a dark time right now, because life will go on. We will keep going. There is a lot of life in us still. And I want to help get all of us across the finish line. So thank you for taking some time. I hope you have a great day, and we'll see you real soon.